In this video, we're going to talk about your first steps with NodeJS. We're going to cover checking your install, seeing which version of NodeJS you've got installed, and perhaps updating to the latest version if necessary. We're going to see how to run Node.js in the command line, and also how to create and run Node.js files. So the first thing to do is to get Node.js downloaded and installed. You can do that from nodejs.org. Normally when you go there, you'll see on the homepage there's a big button for downloading the latest version for your operating system. If it's not there, or if you want a different version for some reason, you can always head to the download section where there's a whole variety of things you can get hold of. While we're here, let's have a quick word about the versions of Node. So if you've been playing around with Node before, you might well have had a version like 0.10 or 0.12. You might be wondering how it suddenly jumped up to version 4. Now this all came about because various people in the community were not happy about how Node was being developed and managed by the sponsor company Joyent. So they forked it into something called IO.js. With this, they had a lot more involvement from the community. They followed the best practices of version numbers, following the December practice. So the numbers of IO increased a lot more quickly than they had with Node. And it quickly got up to version 3. Eventually, after a little while, the communities sort of got back together because no one really liked this fragmentation between Node and IO.js. So they got back together, and Joyent managed to arrange to take on a lot of the aspects that IO.js had set in place, including they set up their own foundation. So there is now Node.js Foundation. So now there's lots of community support, and its Node versions are moving forward much more quickly. So there's much better progress, but when they rolled IO.js back into Node, they kept the version numbers from IO, so it all moved up. So it's when it rolled back in, it became version 4.0. You see now at the time of recording this, we're up on 4.12. Okay, so assuming that's installed, we're going to go and take a look in the command line, and we'll show how to validate that. Okay, so here we are in the command line. I'm using iTerm on the Mac. You can use the native terminal. The standard command prompt in Windows is fine for what we're going to do here. And again, on Linux distributions, standard terminal install is fine. Now, the quick and easy way to validate your Node install and check which version you're running is you get into the command line and just type node --version. As you can see, that comes back with, in my case, v4.1.2, which is the latest version of Node that we've got at the moment. Now when you run this, and if you find you haven't got anything quite so up to date, you probably want to be on at least version 4 point something, then just head back to the Node site and download it. With Node you also get a package manager called npm, and we can ensure that we've got that installed and that's running. We've got a good late version of that. So very similar approach, we can find the version of that just by running npm --version. Yeah, great. So there we've got 2.14.4 of npm. So that's good. That's a good start. We've got Node installed. We've got a good version of Node installed, and we've got npm installed. Okay, so now how do we start working with Node? So we can't actually run Node in the command line, just with some simple JavaScript commands. So first of all, just need to drop into the Node shell, also known as the REPL, by typing node. You'll notice that the symbol here has changed from a dollar to a chevron. That indicates that we're into the Node shell. And in here we can type in any JavaScript command. So for example, a simple console log. If we hit enter and run that, it will just output hello world. Okay, great. So it's fairly simple. We can see that we are running some sort of JavaScript. We can also use variables in here to make it a little bit more evident that we've got JavaScript, not just any old console. So let's start by defining a variable. Okay, then when that's defined, we can use that within a console log as you would do normally in JavaScript. Okay, so we run that, we should find out that this outputs hello Simon to the console. Okay, there we go. So really simple, nice and easy to use, a little bit of JavaScript in the console. But what we really want with Node is, we need to be able to create JavaScript files and we want to run them on the server. So let's just drop out of the shell by pressing Control-C. We have to press that twice. And we'll clear this out. And then we'll move into the text editor. I'll go over here. I'm using Sublime Text 3 on the Mac, but pretty much any advanced text editor will do. Really, you just want to make sure that you've got a level of syntax highlighting in there. Just makes your code much easier to read and makes any bugs much easier to spot. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, we'll create a new file in this folder, in this main folder called app.js. Okay, great. With that there, we can just put in a simple console log like we had before. Okay, that's good. Now we just need to save it. Now, remembering that we're in the same folder here, we're in the same place in the terminal, we can just validate that. If we just do ls, we'll see that we've got app.js is there. We can run that node file there with a simple command of node followed by the file name. So in this case, we node app.js. And there, it simply outputs hello world to the console, as we'd expect. So that's good, that's straightforward. We can see how to run a simple JavaScript file. Now, obviously in here we can use variables like we did before directly in the command line. We can obviously do that in here. So let's add in a name. Okay, so we save that again. Now we're just going to pull the name through into the console log. Here we've got everyone. So we just run that again in command line. And there, we've got the name coming through. So really simple to run JavaScript files. Coming up in the next video, we're going to take a look at one of the key pieces of functionality in Node, which is working with module.exports. And that will help us use modular code in our applications.